Welcome into A to Z Sports Prime Time on this Sunday night, August the 10th. Good to be back in Nashville for 36 hours before we hit the road again tomorrow night. Well, they're already there in Flowery Branch, Georgia, as the Titans continue their preseason road trip extravaganza, for lack of a better term. Brian Callahan's talked at great length about this. It's going to end up being, I believe, 10 or 11 straight days on the road for the team as they work their way through their first couple of preseason opportunities. And of course, joint training camp last week in Tampa, which we were there for, and joint camp in Flowery Branch, Georgia, where the Falcons practice facility is. 2 days of work before a second preseason game and a second opportunity to see Cam Ward. This is the only day that I'm going to be in town. I landed from Tampa this morning at about, I'd say about 7:30 a.m. local time. And tomorrow night, I only came back to pick up a vehicle and drive on down. If it was actually in Atlanta all week, I would have just flown from Tampa to Atlanta. But since we're in Flowery Branch, Georgia, I figured that it would be easier for me for a longer period of time because I'm going to be down there for 6 days. Be easier for me to have a vehicle for some just to get to and fro as need be, especially given the practice facility and still doing the radio show and all these other things. So this will be, this will be a long chunk of time, and I hope that they get accomplished whatever it is that they're trying to accomplish with keeping the team on the road together, because I know it's a great deal of strain on the staff, on the coaches, on the support staff, on the people who get the team to and from their each of their road trips. Like, it's a huge operation to keep an NFL team on the road collectively for 10 or 11 days this way. But, they feel pretty pleased with the early returns on that. And then beyond that, there's the preseason game and the practices to talk about, which is going to be the subject of discussion tonight. We only 14 offensive plays for Cam Ward, but that's enough. That's enough for us to talk about. I think there's a lot to work off of in those 14 plays. And so I will look forward to talking about Cam Ward's review tonight. Well, we can save the rest of the roster further on down. I know some of y'all have questions about Femi. I know Tajay Spears, obviously a very unfortunate situation for a player who just can't seem to stay healthy. And God knows there have been plenty of those for every team across every NFL season. But Tajay's just got, he seems like he's the latest version of it, not quite to the degree of Treylon Burks, but man, I mean, it's only going to be a couple of weeks for him with that high ankle sprain, but still, just to see him get in his first preseason game on a bad field, nonetheless, and have to get carted off that way was unfortunate. Ben Hall asks about Cam Ward's pregame routine, that of normal. I mean, 6.5 hours early before a game is crazy. Like, usually, if kickoff last night was at 7:37, the team buses don't usually get there until about 4:30, 4:45. So the fact that he got the equipment guys to take him over 6.5 hours early just to, give him time to decompress and do all those other things, I suppose it's better than sitting in the hotel room. So he'd rather just be at the game, be at the stadium. I would say it's abnormal. And more than anything, because he went over himself. Him and Restrepo basically spent the whole day at the stadium ahead of that preseason game. And there's discussion to be had about Xavier Restrepo too. I will just share with you something that a member of the support staff shared with me from the sideline. I didn't see this myself personally, so it was just secondhand hearing it, but it sounded like Christian. I don't know why I say, Christian Restrepo, I think, was in my second grade class at St. Mary's in Madison, New Jersey. That's why I keep saying Christian instead of Xavier. But Xavier Restrepo, his family was in attendance at the game last night, and they, according to what I heard, it sounded like they were pretty devastated that he he's not going to make the team. Like, he's not. He doesn't do enough to separate. Obviously, the quarterback situation that he was working with last night was disadvantageous for anybody, whether it be Bryce Oliver, DMR, Xavier Restrepo, or otherwise. But yeah, the Restrepo thing, and that's tough. That's a really tough thing, and doesn't mean that he can't, carve out a role for himself on a practice squad, whether that's here or elsewhere. But yeah, that's the emotional toll that making a roster brings on these things. Kenny says he needs reps with Ward. Yeah, but he's not good enough to get reps with Ward. Like, I'm not taking reps from Chimere DK or Van Jefferson or Calvin Ridley to give them to Xavier Restrepo. Like, he has to earn those reps, and he's currently not good enough to earn those reps. So there's nothing wrong with it being a meritocracy that way, even though he's a hugely productive collegiate player. And it doesn't mean that his NFL career has to end just because he doesn't make an initial 53-man roster. There are plenty of dudes who last in the league who don't make an initial 53-man roster. Don't make him more than he is. If you do that, you're putting unnecessary pressure on him to be something that he's actually not at this point in time. So like I said, I completely understand why people want to make it work in their heads. And it's a cool story. And he's a hard worker, and nothing but respect for the way that he goes about his job. But just football should be the ultimate meritocracy. And if he's not good enough to get reps with the better units, then so be it. That's okay. Like, it's tough. It's an unfortunate pill to swallow. I think people root for the good stories, and that would be a good story. But he's just not viable on the football field that way. Maybe he becomes that. It's so early in his career. Maybe his career doesn't go for much further beyond this as a pro football player. Maybe it does. We have no idea what the world holds for Xavier Restrepo. All we know that right now is he's not good enough to run with the ones, and that's fine. That's fine. It's okay. Anyway, so we're going to talk about Cam Ward first and foremost. Share the broadcast around Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, and Twitch, wherever you are spending your valuable time here with us. We do appreciate you. Corey D. Jackson says, no way we can sneak him through to the practice squad. I mean, again, don't overrate this guy. I don't think there's going to be a huge market. I'm sure some teams would have interest. I'm sure some teams were interested in him in the post-draft process. But like, I think you guys are making this player as a professional something that he is not yet. So anyway, all this to say that Cam Ward is going to be the subject of tonight's discussion. The rest of the stuff down the roster, we can work our way through tomorrow night. I'm obviously, Bert, you want to work Tuesday since there's joint camp and I'll be down there? Well, no, isn't Easton going? Isn't Easton going to the joint camp practices? Do you know this?
I stopped listening when you said something about working on my day off.
Okay, well, if Easton's in, I think they told me Easton was going to at least the joint practices, if not the game. So if he's down there, then we'll let him do Tuesday, and that'll be fine. I don't need to do every prime time on a Tuesday just because there's a practice, especially if he's going to be down there for himself. So we'll keep the schedule as normal this week and keep things moving. And by the way, that's the level of production that you can come to expect from the primetime show. Bert shirtless eating food in the background while I yammer on about your Restrepo not making the team. But there will be time.
Hold on a second. I got to defend my honor against Ben Hall. Ben Hall said, eating naked is definitely a choice. Buddy, it is like 87 degrees upstairs at my house. I am sweating in my own house, but I have to be up here. I have to be up here to manage this. So, you know what? Where the hell? I'm eating stir fry. I made it. Ben Hall, why don't you bring your raggedy ass on over here and you can stay up here in this sauna desert that is my upstairs. You son of
sauna desert. There could not be two more opposite things. Anyway, can we keep it moving? Welcome. And ASC Sports Prime Time on this Sunday night. We're happy to have you. I'm your host, Buck Rising. That's Robert Walsh, I suppose. And we're proud, as always, to be presented to you by the wonderful folks at TrueMav Fitness in the Gulch. I'm telling you, I miss my TrueMav days. It's going to bother me to not be able to get to TrueMav for 2 straight weeks, but that's because they've made the process of physical fitness and working out fun for me. And I miss working out. I hate hotel gyms. I'm grateful to have TrueMav. You will be grateful too. And your first workout will also be free at TrueMavFitness.com. Two Rivers Ford, the South's most trusted Ford dealer. Online at tworiversford.com. Quality American-made Ford vehicles and award-winning customer service is what they offer. 0% down right now at Two Rivers Ford in Mount Juliet or online at tworiversford.com for more details. like I said. All right, so Cam Ward, let's talk about it. 14 offensive plays for the number one overall pick last night. And there will be time. We'll probably do a segment on the radio show this week with Robert and Lucas. By the way, we're very excited about football season, not just because it's football season, but we've been working very hard. Really, I've been working very hard to to make sure that we have a special football season daily guest lineup for you guys that is going to make the radio show infinitely smarter and infinitely more football X's and O's driven, because Robert is probably the smartest football mind of the three of us, to be honest with you. But we do think that we can lend a little additional insight and analysis based on my Rolodex. So tomorrow is going to be the start of something that's going to be really cool. We have a daily special football guest every day but Wednesday for you during the course of the football season. We're going to start it tomorrow after the first preseason game, because of course that's where the analysis will be driven from. It is going to be a lot of familiar faces and a lot of familiar names who haven't necessarily worked in the media space on a regular basis. You guys are welcome to submit your guesses for who our daily guest will be, because we'll be rolling them out each and every day, like I said, except for Wednesday this week. Of course, Coach Mack is still going to be on Fridays. We're not switching that up either, but we will have, I think, 2 on Mondays, 1 on Tuesdays, 1 on Thursday, and 2, counting Mac, on Friday. So it's going to be a great time. You all are welcome to make your guesses in the comment section. But so we are going to talk football, a lot of football tomorrow, and more specifically about things on down the roster. But Cam is going to be the highlight of all of this stuff, and that is where we are going to spend the bulk of our time this evening. Peter Ars says, is Cosell considered a guest? Cosell is not. Well, I mean, Greg is, but like Greg and I do a separate podcast. It's through the radio station, but it's not on the radio show. Like, we only do Greg on the radio show when his schedule or my schedule requires that we like do the podcast live on the radio show that day. And that's very few and far between. So Greg does not count, even though that technically does count as a part of your weekly football guest rotation. So, like I said, y'all can guess as you want to, but we will not bog things down with reading all of your guesses tonight. Instead, we'll talk about Cam Ward. So 2 drives, 14 plays, a 3-and-out in the first, an 11-play scoring drive, touchdown drive, a 1-yard run by Tony Pollard from the 1 in Tampa Bay last night. Now, it's the only points that they scored, right? And that's something, by the way, it's so nice to have a game book back in my hand. So nice to be able to be in a stadium and doing post and pregame obligations, postgame, Titans radio back on the air yesterday. Football season. God, it's so good. Hopefully, it stays much better than last year was, and we don't, I don't get put in an awful mood by your football team again. But anyway, to talk about the things that we saw from Cam last night, he only got 1 drive, which is a 3-and-out in the first quarter. Only 3 plays. The Bucs had 22 offensive plays in the first quarter alone, and they outscored the Titans 29-7. But Tim Boyle throwing a bunch of picks at the end of that game. Turnovers for Brandon Allen and Tim Boyle aplenty. Titans did force a turnover on defense yesterday, but it was, it just the score looked much worse at the end because of the backup quarterback situation. And we can spend plenty of time on that the rest of the week as well. There's a conversation certainly to be had there. But I think that the Cam stuff for tonight, where he had a handful of opportunities and didn't do much with his first opportunity, but then bounced back very nicely with his second. The question that I'm going to ask you is your Two Rivers Ford take on Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, and on Twitch. I'm sorry if I'm making a bunch of noise as I flip through the pages of my game book. But your Two Rivers Ford take is this. What was your initial impression of Cam Ward last night? Just as simple as that. Then keep it simple, stupid. What was your initial impression of your number 1 overall pick, rookie quarterback, Cam Ward, out there getting it done? 3-and-out, and then an 11-play scoring drive, a 1-yard rush on the goal line by Tony Pollard to give them their only points of the evening. I think that when you so that's your Two Rivers Ford take. Give me your submissions. What were your initial impressions? We'll talk about it together. Your Two Rivers Ford take is made possible by Two Rivers Ford, who is also, of course, responsible for getting me to Atlanta tomorrow, or Flowery Branch, more appropriately. Either way, Two Rivers Ford is reliable, in business for over 4 decades. And now they're currently offering you 0% down on your next vehicle purchase at Two Rivers Ford. They go above and beyond to make the car buying process fast, easy, and more fun. They are there to help you through that process, and their sales staff does not work on commission, which means you are going to enjoy every step of the way and not feel pressured to buy a vehicle that you may not feel is right for you, your budget, or your family's needs. Go to Two Rivers Ford in Mount Juliet or online at tworiversford.com for more details. What were your initial impressions of Cam Ward last night? Let's see. McLean Cromer, I think is how I pronounce it, says he looked like a rookie drive one and a 10-year vet on the second one, night and day from last year. I won't go as crazy to say 10-year vet. I thought he had some rookie moments on both of those things, right? But he was fine. He was completely fine. We'll do a comparison because Tyler Shuck looked solid today. I thought Jackson Dart, from what I saw, haven't had the opportunity to watch every snap of him for the Giants on Saturday leading up to that Titans game. And then Shedeur Sanders obviously got the most run out of any of them and was very, very productive working against 2s and 3s in Charlotte. I think they played in Carolina in that game. A lot of hype about Shedeur, and that's fine. Understandably so. We know what that's going to look like all year long. So we'll do a comparison of the 4 of them probably later in the week on the radio show if there are fair comparisons, and there will be some unfair comparisons to make as well. I think that's okay for the larger consuming public when that's the only opportunity that you get to see him. But just putting him, Cam, on face value, thought he was fine. Thought he was completely solid. The throwaway on third down on the first 3rd and 5, I think the game book has it as a 3rd and 5. So that is what I'm going to call it. I saw some people treating it like a 3rd and 6, but what I have here officially on the first drive of the Titans is a 3rd and 5 incompletion by Cam Ward in the direction of, it doesn't have anybody intended because he threw the pass, tried to get it out of bounds, didn't get it out of bounds, which is something that Brian Callahan was asked today. And Callahan said he really didn't even notice that ball landed in bounds and between 2 Bucs defenders as opposed to throwing it into the 10th row of the stands, which is what you want him to do. Now, one drive to another, 2 different experiences. And you like that a lot. But this is the 3rd and 5 throwaway play from a behind the defense angle. And we'll watch it back one more time. He leaves the pocket a bit early there, rolls to his right, doesn't feel comfortable with what he's seeing and throws it away, but throws it in bounds away. So again, there's some things to clean up there, and that's how that first drive ended. So it's a Tony Pollard 5-yard run, 2 Cam Ward incompletions. Titans are off the field. Only 3 offensive plays for Cam Ward in the first quarter. So their next opportunity comes when they're trailing down 10-7, or rather down. Let me make sure I've got the game score right. Either way, they're trailing in this game by the end of the first quarter, 7-. Let me see. Double check here. I want to make sure I've got it correctly for you before I misspeak. It's not that important, I suppose. Yeah, they're trailing 10-0 by the time that Cam Ward gets back on the field. So with that, then comes a couple of opportunities. You have a huge 27-yard chunk play right out of the gate to Calvin Ridley to get them across midfield. Okay, they're rolling. Then Calvin Ridley commits offensive pass interference, which sets them back 10 yards, and you've got a 1st and 20. 1st and 20 is a death sentence for any other version of Titans football. But what stood out on that 1st and 20? 1, protection. You didn't start all of your starting offensive linemen last night. Cushenberry obviously was not out there. It sounds like they're pretty optimistic about him participating in practices this coming week, or at least a return to play protocol this week, which is progress. Sounds like he's going to be ready before Snead, and I know they're not the same injury, but it is kind of crazy that Lloyd Cushenberry blew out his Achilles mid-November and is going to be ready to go before L'Jarius Snead, who had a quad injury in week 5. That's, like I said, the injuries aren't comparable, But an Achilles is a serious injury, and it's crazy that we're still talking about waiting on L'Jarius Sneed, and Lloyd Cushenberry will be ready to be back. Kevin Zeitler also didn't play in the game because he's 35 years old. You don't need to put Kevin Zeitler out there unnecessarily. So it was Rupchich and Corey Levin and the rest of the starting offensive line, Skronsky, Latham, and Dan Moore. You have a situation where the pocket is clean. He's got plenty of time. He's able to complete a couple passes to keep the chains moving. The idea that he completed a 27-yard ball, and Ridley was wide open in the middle of this, so it's not like the degree of difficulty was such. And again, it's preseason, so you try not to get too over your skis. But protection solid. Wide receiver gets there, gets to a spot where Cam can get it to him, rips the pass. First, it's great to not have to play third downs, right? Keep it moving. Keep it moving. And if you can get a fresh set of downs on 1st and 10, love that for you. That's great. So you go about the process of the operation cleanly. The protection is solid, I thought, all night, or at least on the 2 drives that the offensive line got for Cam Ward with Cam Ward, solid, and that Ridley is 3 for 3 when being targeted for 50 yards of the 65 yards on that scoring drive that they ended up getting. That's all good too. And that they overcame that 1st and 20 OPI after Ridley got the 27-yard reception. That's good progress. That's good shit. You have to be able to overcome adversity, and Cam Ward did so in a couple of different spots. Now, there's reason to believe that they don't score any points at all if what's Haynes' first name? Is it Jacob Haynes? What's 32's name? Let's see. Josh Haynes. Josh Haynes, the cornerback from Tampa, had 2 hands on a Cam Ward interception that he just dropped. There's reason to believe that Cam Ward absolutely should have been intercepted on that play. They got away with one fine. Like, defensive backs drop balls in real life too. So there's reason to believe that's something that could happen in a game, and you can get away with it. And he got away with one there. So the drive could have ended right there on that 2nd and 9 that Josh Haynes dropped. But they continue to move the ball down the field. Lockett gets them a 1st and goal situation, and then they're able to punch the ball in from the 1-yard line after they get there, which is good. The operation, for the most part, clean. And mistakes were made, but mistakes were overcome. And all of that is going to be as close to a real-life NFL experience in a game that doesn't count as you could possibly have. And so, of course, we talked to Cam Ward last night after the game, and I thought he was very fair in his evaluation of his own performance.
It felt good, just for us to get more than just 3 plays under our belt, for us to get a rhythm as an offense. It's a lot of guys' first time playing together, but it felt good to come up with points.
How did things go for you? How you feel when operations-wise, making sure you got guys in and out of the huddle and everything?
Well, it felt good operation-wise. We really didn't have any MAs. I think the biggest thing was just us being able to play in a real game atmosphere together, getting a vibe of each other, and then playing together like we did.
Was the speed of the game about what you expected?
It was. It's not really too different from college. It's just more being, I would say, alerted on 3rd downs. Just the cans that you can get to in Coach Callahan's offense, and then just getting the ball out when it needs to be out.
That first one to Calvin, protection was great. He was like 6 yards wide open. Could everything around you have gone any more perfectly than that to set it up to work?
No. O-line, I think that was a big reason why we were able to move the ball in our 2nd drive. Those guys that came up front, and they had the mindset to go get it, and they gave me enough time to put the ball in Red's hand, let him make a play. Then they were the reason why we finished off that drive with points.
Did you have a play on the 3rd down on the first series in hindsight with maybe Jefferson coming across?
That was 2nd down. The 3rd down one, the timing wasn't there from the standpoint of what it's always been, but in the game, that's when you just got to be reactive. I got off the pocket too early. I could have painted the ball on Red and Lockett once I looked at the film. But that's just stuff I got to get better at, just being able to play post-snap as well.
So that's Cam Ward last night with us in the post-game press conference, and I thought very diplomatic, very fair evaluation. Callahan also said that after they scored a touchdown, Ward wanted to go back in, and they said no. Field conditions, by the way, dreadful, and unfortunate. I think Rashad White, the Bucs running back, ended up with a groin injury on that field last night. Tajay Spears, obviously, the high ankle sprain. And I don't know if that's exclusively because of the field conditions, but the field conditions were poor. Titans coaching staff was very concerned about that. They just put that turf in the night before. I was down on the sideline pregame talking to a bunch of coaches, and they were very nervous about just generally that whole ordeal, and that they came out, with the Tajay injury is unfortunate. He left last night on crutches and in a boot on his, I believe that was his right ankle. So not completely unscathed, but that they came out largely unscathed is good for all of the guys who are more than likely to make the 53-man roster. Tajay is of course a tough situation for him, as we talked about earlier. Just can't seem to stay healthy, and they're not connected, right? It's concussions. It's a hammy last year. It's a high ankle sprain this year. That's going to probably knock him out for the rest of the preseason at minimum. They can get him ready to go in less than a month, by the way, until we all go to Denver. That is going to be a win for them. They need as many of their pieces and parts as humanly possible. Eric says, stupid field turf took a sack away from Draymond Jones. Yeah, I saw him slip, and I know he tweeted something about that as well. They had the one sack, right? They had the Cam Horsley pressure that Jihad Ward was able to clean up. I don't believe they had another sack last night. And Femi Oladejo with a 0 on the pass rush win rate. Doesn't mean that he had an overall terrible night, but you need that guy to be a game changer, and he's not there yet. He's still very raw. He's a second-round pick. You need that guy to be an impact player. I don't know that he's ready to be that yet. So all this to say that on the whole, I thought that you, in the 14 snaps that you got at Cam Ward, that it was a pretty good experience top to bottom. And while you don't have to be too high about it, you don't have to be too low about it, I think that's just kind of going to be what the experience is. There's going to be moments when he looks like a rookie. There's going to be moments where he shows you stuff that your previous quarterbacks have not been able to do. Not perfect, but my 3 big takeaways from the Cam Ward experience, 3 valuable lessons from the Cam Ward experience. Not perfect. Going to have some growing pains. As long as he can fight through it and keep his level, that's great. As unbothered in the game as he is at practice, which is exactly the kind of demeanor you want. You want the same guy day to day, as opposed to the Jekyll and Hyde experience of last season, of course. And then, the third valuable lesson that I had is, if anything happens to Calvin Ridley, he's probably banged. Talking about Cam Ward, because Ridley is going to be bread and butter this year, and they are so perilously thin and inexperienced at wide receiver right now. They have a lot of different kinds of bodies, a lot of different players right now, but Calvin Ridley's the closest thing to a game-changing player that you have on that offense right now. I know Robert made a good case for Tony Pollard a couple of weeks ago. If they have to lean on him again, as it appears that, at least early indications are that Tajay won't be back for a couple of weeks. If it starts out with heavy volume Tony Pollard, I think that takes his effectiveness down. You want to be able to give him a lighter workload and also get him involved in the passing game, as opposed to just running him into the line of scrimmage over and over and over again the way that they did last year. So if anything happens to Calvin Ridley, everybody's probably banged on the offensive side of the ball. But I think that on the whole, it's a solid experience, completely solid experience, and that's all that you can ask beyond him getting out healthy on the preseason game number 1. Some stuff here about Titans Radio. So first time for Taylor Zarzer with Coach Mack and Rhett Bryan, Lucas hosting pre and post. I got a lot of tweets from you guys for those of you that were listening to Titans Radio pregame, because Lucas and I did a very serious segment, which is something that Lucas and I never do, but Lucas is very serious in his professional broadcasting role for pre and post of Titans Countdown host. And, if I need to be locked in, I can be locked in from time to time. So when we did our Titans Insider segment, it's about as serious as Lucas and I have ever been. And that was fun to get back in the swing of things. And it's definitely a different angle than you guys normally hear from he and I, but fun to do that. I didn't listen to the Titans Radio broadcast last night during the game, so I don't know how the reviews were from you all, but I hope it was an enjoyable experience for you, and I know they enjoyed getting back in the saddle as a unit last night. So hopefully that was as fun for you as it seems like it was for them. All right. So Sunday Funday, we'll talk about the rest of the stuff that happened in the game. We'll talk about the backup quarterback situation, Tajay, wide receivers, punt return stuff tomorrow on the radio show. Like I said, special guests tomorrow. Well, at least one special guest tomorrow. I need to find out if we're going to have two special guests on the radio show tomorrow. But right now, we will have one special recurring guest that will be with us on Mondays.
Yes, I'll be there tomorrow.
Now that he is he's just turning into a clout monster. I don't know what to do with him other than to just should I just take away his speaking privileges? Should we ban his segment on Monday nights in case you missed it? Should we just ignore him during the radio show to see if we can't drown this out? I think that there's, I think he's getting a little too big for his britches, and I can't even get him to wear britches half the time. So, I mean, this is something that we're going to have to get a handle on. There can only be one ego on the radio show. There can only be one. All right. And I'm not losing that fight to shirtless, not even shirtless, completely nude, pink, fleshy Bert. I will not. Also, get your AC fixed. Nobody wants the visual of you naked sitting in your probably pleather office chair eating stir fry that you made. Although I'm sure Robert knows how to make a good stir fry. Either way, Jackie says, you made this monster, Buck. Let him talk and be on camera. And here you are. I know. This is what I get. Anyway, Sunday Funday. What was the best thing you saw this weekend? It can be just as simply as your Titans offensive line or your number one overall pick at quarterback or just football generally being all over the televisions all day for the last 4 days since Thursday night. It's been a great time to have football back, and we've enjoyed it thoroughly. What was the best thing that you saw this weekend? Sunday Funday, you let me know in the comment section. We will talk about it together right after I remind you that the Primetime program is made possible by TrueMath Fitness in the Gulch. TrueMathFitness.com is where you go for your first workout free as a Middle Tennessee resident. No workout ever recycled or repeated. TrueMathFitness.com here to help you through that process. And I am going to be hurting without my TrueMath Fitness workouts because I do have some stuff that I can do on the road in the hotel gym, which helps. It helps a great deal, and I appreciate the folks at TrueMath for providing me with some way to try and keep my physical fitness right as I work out in hotel gyms across the country for the next couple of weeks. But I always love the TrueMath experience. You will too. They know you will, which is why you will get your first workout free as a Middle Tennessee resident at TrueMathFitness.com. Okay. What's the best thing that you saw this weekend? I saw some love for the Calvin Ridley Cam Ward connection from Curtis. The 70-yard kick. Jacksonville's kicker hit a 70-yarder, and that's not like elevation. That is thick air, humidity. Ball should not have that kind of flight in Jacksonville. Hell, it shouldn't have that kind of flight in Denver, much less. But the Jags kicker nailed a 70-yarder, which is insane yesterday. Pretty cool situation. A lot of love for the 70-yard kick. Jeffrey Mullins says he was impressed with the offensive line, Mullings and Helm. I'm going to have some good insight for you on what the Titans think of Gunnar Helm versus the rest of the tight end room. Probably later in the week. Maybe we can do that Tuesday or Wednesday after one of the practices with Lucas and Robert. I'll be on remote. They will be back in the studio. Monday's going to be the only day that I am in studio for the radio show this week because I'm right back on the road tomorrow night, which is fine. We're looking forward to joint training camp practices. And I know it's not quite in Atlanta proper, but I do enjoy the city of Atlanta, and Mercedes-Benz is a great place to do a game, preseason or otherwise. So the situation for or what you saw this weekend that made you laugh, there was two things. Not that made you laugh, but that you enjoyed. There were two things that I enjoyed. One, preseason takes. Preseason takes all over social media, trying to make something out of nothing, trying to discern more meaning than preseason football actually deserves. Everybody trying to have a strong opinion about what they saw from Shador, from Cam Ward, from Tyler Shuck, from Jackson Dart, from all these different players across the league. And I really appreciated Brian Callahan's perspective on this today because it is the exact proper approach that we should all take or all keep in the back of our mind as we're talking about preseason football.
To what degree, Brian, do you look at the points stuff as kind of legitimate in terms of not scoring and allowing them a lot of points, something that happened a lot last year? And to what degree does that not rate as a concern based on it being a preseason game and who you're playing and who they're playing and all of that stuff?
Yeah, I think there's you take it for what it is. It's a preseason game with a bunch of guys that, for us had playing a lot of football for the first time. Obviously we want to go out and win every game we play. I'm not going to sit here and dismiss it because, I want to go win too. And we're competitive in that sense. But yeah, I mean, it was a 1-score game deep into the fourth quarter. It was 13-7 or whatever it was. And then it just got kind of sloppy and unraveled at the end on us. So yeah, I don't put, a world of stock in the final score of a preseason game, but there's certainly things we got to do better and we got to clean up from that regard. So it's a little bit of all that, Paul, to be honest.
You take it for what it is. It's preseason football. It's the right approach. And there are some things like the backup quarterback situation is not good, like not good at all. But, there were some explanations that I appreciated from Brian Callahan on like why Brandon Allen threw it out of the back of the end zone on 4th and 2, because that just, he's played too much football to be making silly mistakes like that. And then there was a reasonable explanation for that. Preseason helmet coach to quarterback communication wasn't working properly. Brian Callahan got a play in that he didn't love. Brandon Allen was mixed up and the communication was a struggle, and he threw it out of the back of the end zone on 4th and 2. So, like, those things happen. Tim Boyle is just bad. Tim Boyle is just objectively bad at professional football. But we've known this for quite some time. They've known, some elements of it. They value him as a person in the meeting room to help educate, but he just can't operate. He can tell you what he's supposed to do, but he can't execute on what he's supposed to do. And that matters for a backup quarterback, and for both of them. It was a rough ride. Certainly more so for the Tim Boyle experience, which was basically a quarter and a half of what we got to see yesterday in Tampa Bay. And then the other best thing that I saw on the internet this weekend was Geno Smith flipping off Seattle Seahawks fans as he came out in the tunnel. Geno and Pete Carroll, their first time back in Seattle as the coach and the quarterback of the Raiders. There's one fan, because I've seen this fan. I've done at least one game in Seattle. There's one guy that always has a sign. He's a very loud, obnoxious Seahawks fan. He sits in the same place right by the opposing team's tunnel every game, and he chirps the entire time. So we had a sign yesterday that said Geno Smith, Jamarcus Russell, something about the biggest bust, right? Geno Smith and Jamarcus Russell. Geno sees it. He's, double middle fingers to this guy in the stand, and Pete Carroll gets asked about it after the fact, and I loved it. One from Geno, but I even more so loved Pete Carroll's response to that.
Smith was seen at the Seahawks game making an obscene gesture, like at a fan with a sign.
Did you see what the sign said?
Yeah, I saw it. Yeah.
Next question.
Yeah, it's Pete Carroll not happy at all with the fan and the sign. Not a warm welcome back for Geno or Pete Carroll, but I love the way that Pete handled it. I love even more the way that Geno handled it. It made me put a smile on my face. Him and Max Crosby just double middle fingers as they came out of the tunnel, and Geno and Pete having each other's back is a really cool thing. They're a pretty unique story. All right, that's going to do it for us tonight. Radio show tomorrow, 10 to 1. We'll look forward to it. Then we're back on the road again. I love that Willie Nelson song. I hear it more and more every time I get ready for a road trip. It's what I listen to on every time I get ready for a road trip while I'm packing my bag. I got to finish up my laundry from the 4 days in Tampa. I've already unpacked. Now I got to repack the bag and get ready to go tomorrow night to cover joint training camp practices with the Falcons. Should be a great time. Looking forward to hanging out with you guys. Come hang out with us. Like I said, special guest, at least one, tomorrow on the radio show. That will be a weekly occurrence, and we will see you tomorrow morning on 104.5 The Zone.